is
Yeah.
because I've seen a lot of organisations where that might be, say, um, $100,000,
Yeah.
$250,000. I was having a conversation the other day, and large global organisation,
Yeah.
interestingly, was a financial institution. Theirs was $500,000, where
Yeah.
it was kind of like self signatory, almost, of like, just go ahead and do it, and the strategic stuff procurement we're getting on top of above that. But that's, say for example it's
Yeah.
$250,000. That's quite a lot of money, and it's amazing how often in those sort of scenarios the
Mm.
professional services engagements tend to come in just below that level each time.
Yes. Yes, definitely the games are there, right? Like, if I have a limit of $250,000, is it coming in at $249,000 and $249,000, and then I do change orders. So that exists in every organization. Um, yes, I would say then from a dollar spend, then that threshold probably is accurate, $250,000 to $500,000. But it's also it depends on if it's a centralized funding. So organized financial organizations generally have a federated model. So really at the end of the day, it's up to the leadership of that business unit to make the decision on where and when and how much they're going to spend and how they're going to do it.
Right.
So because of this federated model, there are different strategies within each organization. Now, everything generally does have to come to sourcing because of the risk issues. So every contract does have to be risk assessed. Um, but ones with lower values, they're trying to actually speed up the process. Whereas ones with higher dollars, um, do have to go through a more rigorous process. So at financial organizations, or not every financial organization, but at financial organizations, um, it doesn't matter what the value of the statement of work is. It has to go through the risk process, because even a $10 um,
Right.
statement of work can have a lot of risk associated to it.
Right.
Uh, but a lot of it is single sourced. So when it comes in, it's just really what can we do to negotiate it? Now, um, we do have programs in place for which, suppliers are part of the program, and we did try to encourage that, and we did have a lot of success in that. But it's still single source. So, you could extract value by actually getting quotes, by, going to RFPs. But if it's a federated model, the leadership of that organization ultimately makes the decision.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you talk about the relationships that
Mhm.
buyers and maybe particular federated business units might have with suppliers and the heads of those business units, or the the lead buyers. It's in the professional services firm's interests to build
Yeah.
those relationships, to then make sure they're getting work that isn't getting bid out, that's just getting given to them directly.
I
Um,
I think
and it,
it's changing, but
yeah,
it takes time, right, to move the Titanic. So I think, the scrutiny on professional services has definitely intensified with the dollar spend, the risks associated with it. Um, and there's definitely more scrutiny. And I know that when I did an RFP for some of this work, and we actually did a road show to all the key senior leaders to ensure that they were in line with the negotiation strategy that we put in place, so that when the professional service providers did um, come to them, because we were doing those negotiations, we all had the same voice. We had a unified voice back to the professional service providers. No, this is what we want to do, and we do need to drive the best cost for the organization. So it is changing. It has changed, and I don't know if you want,
it's such an important area of spend, and ultimately where these relationships are, that's where procurement can be extremely valuable, because it's hard to negotiate with your friend your
Yeah.
your friend at the supplier. But the people that are buying within the business should be making choices that are the most effective choice for the business, which again comes down to process and technology. If you can centralize all this sort of stuff and encourage people to go through competitive process, even just the fact that their favorite supplier knows they're in a competitive process, they're going to get better value out of it.
100%. We were able to drive, I think, between 15 and 30% out of our costs.
Yeah,
Significant.
that
So
that doesn't surprise me.
yeah, there's definitely value there. And there have been times where I work for organizations where we've actually exited a key supplier, a critical supplier, or a top, a top name brand supplier because of the issues we've had with those organizations. So
Yeah,
it's difficult, and you do have to get buy-in because it's very easy for them to come back in if they have those relationships. So you do have to get the buy-in.
yeah, and like you say, you've got to have the data, and I think
Yeah.
when you talk about like managing these suppliers, if
Mhm.
you've got weak data, lack of governance, lack of visibility, then you're only going to find you and your team are only going to find out something's gone wrong
Exactly.
after the fact, and then it's too late. If you're getting an idea of if you're tracking milestones, deliverables, whatever those outputs might be, they could be project deliverables, they could be sprints in an IT agile delivery, they could be KPIs, they could be blocks of consulting time, whatever those are. If
Mhm.
you're monitoring those in real time, and procurement, this is where systems can deliver self-service. So the buyer and the supplier are just self-serving. I've completed milestone 3. Buyer says, yes, you have completed milestone
Exactly.
3. Procurement then have information that says, oh, milestone 3 has been done, it's on time, great, no red flags. But also has information in real time to say, hang on a minute, this milestone's now running late. We've got a cost overrun here. Rather than just waiting for a QBR or waiting to try and do some sort of post-mortem way after the fact when everyone's forgotten what happened. If you've got that real-time information, then you can get on top of those poor performers and either improve their performance or actually just really understand where you have a problem. Whereas I think for a lot of organizations, if the CFO came to the CPO and said,
Yeah.
how much work, what did we do with consultancy A last year? Then
Yeah.
they'd be very easily be able to say, we spent this much with them. But then if it was like, what projects, did they do a good job? How many times did they have cost overruns? I mean, you'd literally, in a lot of organizations, people would literally be sifting through almost like paper SOWs, trying to look back at it. What was it? It's just impossible to do at
Not
scale.
that you have your SOW, and then you have your change order 1, which you also have to read, and your change order 2, which you also have to read, and your change order 4, because they're not continuous, right? You actually have to understand what the change is. And it's not in one document, it's in multiple documents.
And one of the things you've said to me in the past is that when it comes to change orders, professional services firms, I think the phrase you used was magicians.
Yes.
But because that's the thing, isn't it? People look at it and go, consultancy B has quoted us a lower day rate than
Yeah.
consultancy A. But guess what? They're going to have change orders and they're going to take twice as long.